Finding a car that blends muscle luxury and attitude for cheap in 2025 sounds impossible. But there's one sedan that did it all back in the mid-2000s, and it's still a bargain today. The 2006-2010 Chrysler 300. This is the car that made Chrysler cool again. A car that could pull up to a valet and look like a Bentley, then hit the drag strip and smoke sports cars. Whether you want a comfy V6 cruiser, a HEMI-powered street sleeper, or the full-send SRT8, this lineup had something for everyone. And the best part, these things are still cheap enough to buy without selling a kidney. But are they actually worth it? Let's break it all down: the history, engine's design, why it's underrated, what you can do with it, and how much you should pay in 2025. To really understand why the 2006-2010 Chrysler 300 hit so hard, you have to rewind the clock. The 300 name wasn't new, it was legendary. Back in the 1950s and 60s, Chrysler's 300-letter cars were symbols of American excess, massive V8s, bold styling, and a reputation for eating up highways like nothing else on the road. Owning one meant you'd made it. But by the late 90s, that swagger was gone. Chrysler had become the brand of rental fleets and suburban minivans. They weren't building cars people dreamed about anymore. They were building cars people settled for. Then came the twist. No one expected. Daimler and Chrysler merged. Suddenly, a struggling American company had access to German engineering. For the first time in decades, Chrysler had the resources to do something bold. They got to raid Mercedes's parts bin, borrowing suspension components from the E-Class, a rock-solid 5-speed automatic, and even some structural design cues. This wasn't just badge engineering. The result was something totally new: an American sedan with European bones. Think about that for a second. When was the last time you heard Chrysler and refined driving dynamics in the same sentence? Exactly. And then in 2005, the first modern Chrysler 300 hit the streets, and it was like a slap in the face to the whole industry. Nobody was ready for how different it looked. Low roof, high beltline, fat stance. It didn't try to copy the Germans. It didn't try to be Japanese. It was unapologetically American, but carried itself like it belonged in the same conversation as BMW and Mercedes. By 2006, Chrysler doubled down. The lineup wasn't just one car anymore, it was a whole family. You had the base 300 for the people who just wanted the look, the 3.5-liter V6 models for those wanting a solid daily, the 300C with a 5.7-liter HEMI for folks who craved old-school muscle in a modern package, and then the SRT8, the one that took the rulebook, shredded it, and lit it on fire with 425 horsepower. And here's the thing, this car wasn't just transportation. It was a statement. Chrysler was saying, we're not dead yet. We can still build something that makes people stop and stare. We can still build something fun. Imagine being a car enthusiast back then. You're used to thinking of Chrysler as a punchline, and suddenly they drop a sedan that looks like a Bentley, has Mercedes underpinnings, and can outrun most sports cars of the era. Even JDM fans had to respect it. This wasn't just another American sedan, it was Chrysler swinging for the fences. And for once, they actually connected. The Chrysler 300 lineup wasn't just about looks. It gave you 4 completely different personalities under the same body, depending on which engine you picked. Let's start with the base model, the 2.7-liter V6. On paper, 190 horsepower doesn't sound awful, but in reality, it's slow. Like merging onto the highway with your foot glued to the floor, slow. This was the version most people remember from rental fleets, and honestly, that's where it belongs. If all you needed was a cheap commuter that looked way cooler than it drove, the 2.7 got the job done. But for enthusiasts, forget it. This is not the one you want. Then there's the 3.5-liter V6, and this is where things start to get interesting. With 250 horsepower, it's no street racer, but it transforms the 300 from a sluggish barge into something genuinely pleasant to drive. Smooth power delivery, decent torque, and surprisingly good highway manners. Think of it as the sensible choice, the kind of car you could daily drive for years without thinking about it too much. And for a mid-2000s Chrysler, that's saying something. It won't give you that V8 soundtrack, but if you want the 300's presence without the 300c's thirst, this is your sweet spot. But let's be real, you clicked on this video for the HEMI. The 300c's 5.7-liter V8 is the star of the show. 340 horsepower and 390 pound-foot of torque in a big rear-wheel drive sedan. This is the one that makes you grin like an idiot every time you hit the gas. It's the perfect dual personality, tame and comfortable when you're cruising, but the moment you dig into the throttle, it wakes up like a caged animal. Chrysler even gave it multi-displacement system, which shuts off 4 cylinders on the highway to save fuel. It's cute, but let's be honest, if you're buying a HEMI, you're not here for the fuel economy. You're here for the sound, that deep old-school American growl that makes everyone in a 3-block radius turn their head. And then there's the SRT8. This isn't just a better 300C, it's a whole different animal. Chrysler stuffed a 6.1-liter HEMI under the hood, cranking out 425 horsepower and 420 pound-foot of torque. In 2006, that was insane for a sedan that wasn't wearing a German badge. 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds, a quarter mile in the high 13s, and it would keep pulling to 165 mph. For context, that's faster than a contemporary BMW 545i, and knocking on the door of an E55 AMG cars that cost 3 times as much to buy and twice as much to maintain. The best part, the SRT8 didn't need to be babied. While some European performance sedans feel like they'll explode if you look at them wrong, the 6.1 HEMI loves abuse. Burnouts, no problem. Highway pulls all day. Track days. Sure, why not? It was built to take punishment and keep going, which makes it one of the most approachable performance sedans of its era. Imagine this, you pull up to a meet in a Chrysler. Yeah, a Chrysler. No one expects much. And then you start it up. That 6.1 snarls to life. And suddenly, everyone's paying attention. That's what makes these engines special. They give the 300 lineup a personality you just don't get from most sedans. The Chrysler 300's design is one of the main reasons it blew up. Tall, belt-line, low roof, squared-off stance, it looked like a baby Bentley for people who didn't have Bentley money. Even today, it has presence. Park one next to a modern sedan, and it still looks bolder. Inside, Chrysler tried to punch above its weight. Leather seats, available navigation, a Boston acoustic sound system, and features like heated seats made it feel upscale. The SRT8 got bolstered sports seats, unique gauges, and performance touches that reminded you it wasn't just about looking good, it was built to perform. Sure, some of the plastics were cheap, but for the price it delivered way more luxury than you'd expect from a domestic brand at the time. So why doesn't the Chrysler 300 get the respect it deserves? Simple people confuse the base models with the good ones. The fleet-spec 2.7 V6 ended up as rentals, and that gave the whole lineup a reputation it didn't deserve. But enthusiasts know better. A 300C or SRT8 is a totally different experience. This car bridged a gap that few sedans ever have. It gave you muscle car power with luxury car comfort. It was rear-wheel drive, had a proper V8, and still felt like a big cruiser on the highway. European sedans might have been sharper, but they were expensive to buy and even more expensive to maintain. The Chrysler 300 gave you 80% of that experience at half the price and added American character that you just couldn't get from a BMW or Mercedes. If you're into modifying cars, the Chrysler 300 is a playground. The 3.5 V6 can handle basic upgrades like intake and exhaust, but the real fun starts with the HEMI engines. A 5.7 HEMI with a cam swap, headers intake, and a tune can easily hit 450 horsepower. Throw on a supercharger, and you're in the 600-plus horsepower club. The 6.1 SRT8. That motor loves mods. Bolt-ons and a tune get you near 500 horsepower, And with forced induction, you can build a monster that outruns modern muscle cars. And it's not just about power. The aftermarket for suspension brakes and wheels is huge, thanks to the LX platform. You can build a drag car, a stance build, or even a VIP-style cruiser that rivals the Toyota Crown or Nissan Sima in terms of street presence. There's a whole community of 300 owners pushing these cars to their limits. The best part about these cars? They're still cheap. A decent 3.5 V6 can be had for around $3,500 to $4,500. A solid 300C with the 5.7 HEMI will run you from $5,000 to $8,000, depending on mileage and condition. The SRT8 has started climbing in value, but you can still snag a clean one for $12,000 to $15,000, a steal for the performance you're getting. When shopping, check for common issues: electrical gremlins in early models, cooling system health especially on the HEMIs, transmission maintenance. Thankfully, the Mercedes-sourced 5-speed is tough, but hates neglect. Interior wear, especially on higher mileage examples. If you find a well-kept 300C or SRT8, you're getting a car that still feels special, without costing exotic money to own. The 2006-2010 Chrysler 300 wasn't just a car, it was a cultural moment. It showed up in music videos. It became the unofficial VIP sedan of the American car scene. And it reminded everyone that Chrysler could still build something cool. It's the kind of car that even today makes people do a double take when they hear that V8 rumble. For JDM fans, think of it like America's answer to the Toyota Crown Athlete, big, bold, rear-wheel drive, and full of potential. Except instead of a Turbo 6, you get a HEMI V8 that sounds like thunder every time you touch the throttle. So should you buy a Chrysler 300 in 2025? If you want something unique, powerful, and still affordable, it's hard to beat. Whether you grab a reliable 3.5 V6 Daily, a 300C with that iconic HEMI, or the full-send SRT8, you're getting a sedan that blends luxury and muscle like nothing else in its price range. Which one would you take? The sleeper V6, the HEMI Cruiser, or the fire-breathing SRT8? Drop your pick in the comments and tell me how you'd build it: VIP drag or full street sleeper. And if you want more deep dives into underrated cars like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more coming, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's next.